Hi guys, I hope you're having a great day so far. Well, what I'm getting around to today is a bit of succession planting. I'm going to be doing a round of pro-cut sunflowers, a round of gladiolas, and also a wave of queen lime zinnias. And I thought I would try my best to take you along for that process because I've seen a lot of questions about succession planting. And so hopefully by just kind of talking through the day with you guys and kind of seeing what I have going on, that might be helpful to somebody out there. So I think we'll start out with our pro cuts. I do the pro cuts in trays because of the amount of pressure that I have from things like rabbits, squirrels, and birds. So I'm going to be doing today Pro Cut Gold Light. This would be my fourth succession of sunflowers this year. I had some growing undercover very early. I had white light growing undercover. They're doing great. Then I came in with green fill, purple fill, and now we're moving on to kind of the summer color. So that's why we're doing Gold Light today. And we're also going to be doing Strawberry Blonde, which is a branching sunflower. I don't love the branching sunflowers for cuts as much as the Pro Cuts, which is a single stem variety, but these are both pollenless, so they do make good cut flowers. So let's just start with these and then we'll just kind of progress through the day. So this Gold Light is brand new this year and it's really beautiful. It's a nice yellow sunflower with kind of a yellow green center. So we'll just get to planting here. I like to plant my sunflowers every 2 weeks. I plant them 6 inches apart and they will be ready, these Pro Cuts, in about 60 days. So I really like Pro Cuts. They're nice and reliable. Like I said, they're pollenless. I've seen a lot of people selling sunflowers that do have pollen. You can actually see that in people's pictures because after you pick them and they start to open, you're going to see that pollen start to form immediately. But what happens is that pollen sheds. So if somebody has it on a table with a tablecloth, if somebody is holding it in a bouquet, maybe they have it on an antique that's really special, pollen can really be a serious problem. So when you're growing sunflowers for cutting, it's always best to go pollenless. And here on my half acre, I do about 100 sunflowers every 2 weeks. And I'm sure to many people that sell cut flowers, that's not much at all. But on my half acre, since I do like to grow so many different kinds of things, because that just is what brings me the most joy and pleasure, 100 every 2 weeks is enough for my flower stand. So you can see basically I just poke a hole here into the cells, drop my seeds in, 1 seed per hole, and then I'll just pinch them closed and water them in, and we're already done. It only took about a minute. And when I first started selling cut flowers, first of all, I didn't sell pollenless sunflowers, which yikes, my poor customers that bought those. But also I didn't really do too much succession planting. I did maybe 3 waves, but I didn't do this every 2 week succession. Now, some people find that doing sunflowers and gladiolas every single week is good. I think if I had a larger farm, I would certainly do that. But my goal is always to have 5 bouquets every day of the week during the growing season. And so this is what works for me. So I basically see 3 reasons why I would at least succession plant a crop. The first being basically like the Pro Cut sunflowers. That's a flower that only gives me 1 flower. I'm going to plant 1 seed. I'm going to get 1 cut flower. It's not a branching variety where I get multiple cuts. It's just 1 single cut. So some other examples would be the gladiola, or also something like a single stem celosia, which is very popular and easy to grow. Something like that I would want to be planting every week, probably if I had a big farm. For my purposes here on a smaller area, I plant once every 2 weeks. So that's the first reason why I would succession plant something. The next reason is because of disease. If I know a crop that I want to grow is susceptible to some kind of like a fungal disease in my particular area, I succession planted about once every 3 weeks. So in this case, we could talk about the zinnias. So even though the queen lime zinnia is apparently resistant to powdery mildew, it still gets powdery mildew for me in my area. After a period of time, we just get so much rain here. We're so hot and humid. And as soon as my plants start to get powdery mildew, I don't want to be picking from those plants anymore. So I have another healthy crop of zinnias, hi Grace, coming on ready to go. So that would be the second reason why I would want to succession plant something. And then I think the last reason why I would want to succession plant something is because as time goes on, the crop is producing less usable stems, or the quality significantly goes down of the stem. So say something like snapdragons, which we just harvested the other day, that first cut of the snapdragon, even the second cut, is a really great cut flower. But as time goes on, the plant wanes, or depending on what group it is, it actually might kind of lull altogether. So instead of just planting one planting of snapdragons, I plant multiple plantings. Right now I have 2 plantings of snaps in the ground, and I'll do another one soon here of rockets, probably at the end of this week. And I think really just overall something that I'm not sure if I ever heard anybody say this, but I think to myself, especially if you're at a roadside stand, I think it's really important to establish the fact that you're just consistent across the board. You're always set up at the same time. Your flowers are always the best, most well-conditioned flowers out there. They're the proper flowers for cutting. And also it's nice to have consistency in the type of flower that you're selling, especially with something like sunflowers. I've even had people say this, that they come here for sunflowers or they come here for gladiolas. And if I only have gladiolas for 1 week and then I don't have them at all the rest of the summer, I feel like that's money that I'm just kind of leaving on the table. So instead, just keep on planting rather than planting, and once again, these numbers are relative depending on your space. But for me, instead of planting 1,000 gladiolas all at once and trying to move all those gladiolas all at once, I'm going to plant 100 every 2 weeks. Same with the sunflowers, 100 every 2 weeks. And that way I get a consistent supply of income. I know I can sell those flowers through, and that's just what works for me. Now, I hope that's helpful. I think as far as, the amount of what you should be planting, that's just going to vary greatly on where you are, what your space is, who's your customer. If I had a big space and I was selling to a florist, I would plant way, way, way more than I am here. But I'm just thankful for the space I have, and these are the numbers that work for me. So I hope that's helpful. So we're pretty much done now. What I'm going to do is water these guys in, put them on the heat mat. They'll be inside under lights for 2 weeks, and at that point they will come out here and live in the garden until we cut them and sell them. So let's get that done, and then I think we'll get our glads planted and our queen lime zinnias. All right, guys, so now that we have those sunflowers on the heat mat, I'll just go ahead, let them germinate on the heat mat. As soon as they germinate, I'll move them under lights. They'll be under lights for about 2 weeks, and at that point I'll start hardening them off and then plant them out in the garden. So now let's go ahead and plant a wave of gladiolas and get our queen lime zinnias in. Today I'm going to be planting 90 Zamora gladiolas. That is a pink gladiola with kind of a beautiful deep raspberry kind of throat to it. I plant gladiolas every 2 weeks until about the end of June. Then I kind of stop planting gladiolas. I plant sunflowers a bit longer. How to know basically when to stop planting sunflowers is figure out what's your first frost date, and then how many days to maturity is your sunflower. So for a pro cut, it's about 60 days. So find out my first frost date, count back 60 days, and I also tag on about 2 weeks to that, because at that time of the year, at least in my zone and my first frost date, I'm even looking about towards Thanksgiving. So the days are shorter at that point, not as much light, not as warm. It's going to take them longer to grow during that point in the year. So I probably judged it about 70 to 80 days for that last wave of sunflowers, but I really push it with sunflower seed. Sunflower seed is not expensive. Why not push it and get as many successions of sunflowers as possible? This past year, I was so close to having about 50 ready for Thanksgiving. I had, what's the one? It's called White Knight. I had White Knight, about 50 of those in the ground. They were all budded up, ready to bloom for Thanksgiving, and we just got way too cold. I had 2 layers of agribon on them, and I still lost them. But I was not worried about that at all. I was still thankful that I had at least tried. So with the zinnias, we're gonna go in. I already have little flower girl zinnia in the ground. So that was my first wave of zinnias. Now I'm coming on with the Queen Lime series. I'm doing Queen Lime with blush. And then I'm probably immediately going to seed zinnias probably Friday. Today's Tuesday. Friday, I'll probably seed another tray of more vibrant summer colors. So guys, let's head over there and get some more planting done. Pointy side up, flat root side down. All right, guys, well, I got those gladiolas in, and now I'm just working on the Queen Lime with blush zinnias. As far as these glads go, I've basically covered how I plant them before. I did it in a trench. I just dug a trench 5 inches down and spaced the corms 3 inches apart, covered it back up with soil, and then watered it really, really well. And I think the one question that I see more than any really when it comes to gladiolas is, do I have thrips? What do I do about thrips? Generally, if you're having a really serious thrip problem on your gladiolas, you're probably not watering them enough. Gladiolas are actually pretty water hungry. In fact, I heard Dave Dowling over at Ball say once that when you cut a gladiola stem to sell, it should sound like the crunch of celery. It should have that much water in its stem. So if you are having a really big problem with thrips and you don't want to come in there with a pesticide, maybe think about giving them a little more water than what you normally would. So as far as these Queen Lime zinnias go, pretty self-explanatory. Like I say, this is my second wave of zinnias going in. I try to also think about color when it comes to succession planting. So these are still more kind of in that nice pastel pink zone, and we're kind of going to start to move into the summer colors. And then of course, as I start into fall, I can come in with some, some wines, some burgundies, even some blacks. So, that'll be really, really fun. I really love the fall colors. As far as zinnia planting goes, I do 12 by 12 inch spacing. That is basically because of how much rain we get here, and I just deal with powdery mildew on a lot of things. If you lived in a drier climate, you could probably certainly go 9 by 9, but 12 by 12 is what seems to help me out as far as powdery mildew goes. So guys, I think I'll just get all these zinnias in the ground, and then I'll catch you in a second. All right, guys, well, I'm going to wrap up the video here. I really hope it was helpful to kind of do a day of succession planting with me. This is kind of what the whole rest of my season looks like. I'm either seeding something, hardening something off, planting something out, or harvesting something from here on in. So if you have any questions on succession planting, please let me know. I'll do my best to answer them or address them in an upcoming video. And just know that if you feel still confused about succession planting or overwhelmed by it, I'm sure you're not alone. I think it's a really kind of hard concept to almost put down on paper, but you know, once you get a season or two under your belt and you find out what works best for you and get more comfortable with the process, you know, don't worry, you're gonna get it. It's gonna all work out. And I think too, just think about the whole growing season as more of a marathon rather than a race. You know, don't plant everything at once and then have everything come in at once. That'll be really, really hard on you. And you'll leave money on the table too at the end of the day. And I wouldn't want anybody to do that. Instead, plant the amount that you need continuously so that you're continuously planting for a continuous harvest. So guys, that's that. I want to wish you a great day. Bye.